Wait for it. And we're live again. Welcome, warriors, to the Viking Empire podcast, episode 2, the Æsir Vanir War, the Gods' War. I'm one of your hosts, Chris Selfo. The other host out there, what's his name again?
Bryce Carlson.
Hey, there you go. All right, so here we are. And you know what? We're real excited because we got better mics this time. Holy shit. Episode 2. Things are improving. We're learning, we're growing, we're bettering, we're developing. Look at that,
huh? Yeah.
So there you go. But yeah. So this topic, the Æsir Vanir War, the Gods' War, this is kind of a springboard off of our last episode. Last episode was kind of a real rough and tumble through the bramble introduction to the Norse mythologies, which I found very enthralling. I found it very interesting. Hell's bells. We had entire worlds and peoples coming out of armpits. We had giant cows licking ice blocks. We had gods coming up out of the woodwork. It was crazy, Bryce.
It was, yeah. You got the cow, cow titties over and over and over and over. But yeah, so today's episode is sponsored.
Give us that sponsorship. Slap us with that sponsorship.
The Children of Freya skateboards. Get your best pagan skateboarding right there. I mean, I personally would buy one. I'm probably going to have to next time. But my board's intact right now. So
hell yeah. I know. Yeah. I don't like the Christian God and cursing into my land. So as I fight back, I want to do a real sick half pipe trick. And what better way to do that than with pagan-inspired, Viking-infused skateboards?
Right. You could even, imagine that, doing the Jesus Christ move. With the pagan board. Wow.
Sort of kind of paganism. Woo.
Woo. But yeah, they're Children of Freya is based out of Knoxville, Tennessee. They help the inner city kids so they can get back into skateboarding and to get into skateboarding, with accessible fees and all that. Very awesome.
Fucking righteous.
So yeah. Yeah.
You know what they say? You can't shoot up meth without doing a sick alley-oop, So keep those kids skateboarding. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Sponsorships out of the way. Public service announcements. Our quota's hit for the day. We are talking about a war, the first war. The world is already established. And of course, the gods, such as they are, they won't remain still for long. They start to get real restless with each other. And we have two main groups. The Æsir and the Vanir, if I'm correct there, Bryce. Am I correct?
Yes, the gods of war versus the gods of fertility and growth.
All that good stuff. I wonder who will win.
Truth.
It seems a little one-sided. It's like,
right.
What are you the god of? Well, I make sure the crops and the seasons happen. What are you the god of? War. Just
war. Man.
That's kind of interesting. So what I find interesting right off the bat with this aspect of a war between gods is that you kind of have two main groups of gods, right? Ones that are more to do with what we would call, I suppose, the higher liberal ideals. We've got wisdom, fertility, maybe even learning, scholarship, or otherwise more refined aspects of the human nature, going against the more darker, more rough, the more base sides of human nature.
Right, but and then in the end, it just shows how you need the balance in this world.
And that's the whole thing too, because we'll obviously dive into how who the players are between the sides of the gods and what kicks off. But the interesting thing to really hit here, Bryce, as you said, is that you got two halves: the kind of the fire and the water, the hot and the cold, the instinctual versus the wise, right? Those two halves of humanity coming into a single pantheon. And that's what this God's War is all about.
What's really interesting is even I'm sorry, I'm gonna add in the story of Odin, considering that's gonna be our next topic after this one. Is Odin sacrifices one eye for more knowledge? So think about it. He wants to be a Vanir.
I like that.
Yeah, it's cross-dressing. No, I didn't mean that. I didn't mean that. I hope we don't get complaints about that one. But yeah, he's a cross-dressing. I'm done. But it's it's interesting though. You got these gods of wisdom and fertility and all this growth of the worlds, and then you got Odin though. These guys are built out of war machines in a sense.
And just to be clear, the gods of war let's see, that pretty much like the principal Norse religion, Odin, Frigg, Thor, Balder, Tyr. These are the Æsir, right?
Yeah.
Æsir. These are the more like what we'd associate with like old, strong Norse beliefs, right? And then the other side are the Vanir, right? Those are the gods of fertility, wisdom, nature, magic, even the ability to see the future, which is kind of weird, seeing as how they could do that. How'd they lose the war? Whatever. I'm not a myth writer.
Yeah, yeah.
Who am I to judge?
I might have to, partake in that.
But it's pretty cool shit.
Yeah.
So we have our players. Gods of the old strengths versus gods of the old and equally weighted, more surreal, abstracted strengths. And they're coming to a head. And this story, again, comes to us after the Viking Age. We know about this from our main boy. We're going to be plugging a lot, Snorri Sturluson. Right?
Snorri Sturluson.
And this poem, let's see, it comes to us out of the Poetic Edda.
The Poetic Edda, the Prose Edda, all that
Prose Edda of the 13th century. So we're talking about this bad boy. We're dating him back to almost a full century, or right up against the end of the Viking Age. So
yeah,
that's the best we can go off of. Who knows if this is actually what the various tribes and peoples of the Danes and the Saxons and all this and that actually believe. But hey, it's the only shit we got to go off of. So that's what we're going to go off of.
So here we go. You got Balder of the Æsir in right corner, and you got well, I mean, you do get okay. So there's a lot of in the right corner. You got Balder facing up against the Vanir Freya.
Love it.
Sunday. But that's the first fight. No, I'm kidding. So there's a lot of
lapping each other. Yeah. So yeah. Bryce, help me set this up here.
Yeah. So we're gonna.
Why are these groups of gods, I guess, at each other's throats at odds and ends, or even trying to start a war? Do you know who throws the first punch and why?
Yeah. Odin does in his hall.
Oh shit.
Yeah, man. He shoots a spear right across, killing. Oh gosh, I can't remember the name. He kills a guy. Oh, one of the Vanir. And okay, it's kind of like, in like historic battles, like, I mean, you probably know more about the historic battles, but like, okay, like it's a standstill, right? They're all fine until one person accidentally unlatches his bow,
right?
Arrow, all out war right there. That's how it is, with his spear. And
interesting.
I mean, like, who knows? Odin loves to drink, so it could just be like how I've always saw this reading about the Vanir and Æsir war is it was a drunken brawl fight, and it just went right from there. So
if you're going to unite the two houses, honestly, we could ascribe this to the modern Washington landscape we got going on. If you got such division, left, right, conservative gods, liberal gods, blue gods, red gods, why not just like get everyone drunk, everyone just like someone throw a spear. Figure it out. We lock the doors, and after 3 days, we open it up and see who's left.
Right.
Boom.
I mean, that would be honestly, that would settle everything right there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So this war is often, as in these stories, kind of told in a story itself. So here we are reading a story, talking about a story as being recounted as a story, right? And the war is recounted by, I'm going to butcher this word, a vulva. Well, it's like a Volvo, not a vulva for the female listeners out there. The story isn't recounted to us by a vulva, but by a vulva.
Vulva.
We'll have all this information in the description at some point in the future. But apparently Odin questions this goddess.
Yeah, so okay, like they're basically seers, vulva. That's where he goes to. He resorts to consorting with the vulva about everything,
Oh, are they the gods who can kind of see the future or have
and they're mostly women, and they're usually like they're
I love the underpinning themes. Women can see the future, men start wars. History would say that's usually the case.
I mean, it's the most feminist. It's the most feminist.
That's right.
Mythology, right there.
Norse mythology, core feminism. Boom.
Core feminism. Now we're gonna get like comments from everyone. Wacky liberals. No.
Alex Jones is gonna come on.
Yeah. Goddamn gay frogs.
That's our quota of an Alex Jones plug. There we go. Alex, if you're out there, we're still waiting for your call, brother.
Please get on.
Oh my gosh. So
you're a waste of my time. Alex Jones.
So Odin goes to consult these Volva goddesses, or goddesses, multiples, that have some insight into the future.
They're like, they're trying
to see.
They are trying to see who wins. Most likely, Æsir, Vanir.
There you go.
Trying
to cook the books.
Cook the books. So, I mean, he's done it before to even see when Ragnarok happens. And he's done it before in multiple other sagas. I mean, I can't think of the top of my head. It's been a long day. But I would say that's like the turning point. I mean, okay, like there's a stanza like in I'm reading this from Wikipedia right now because I was looking it up because I don't know much about this topic as much.
Wikipedia.
Wikipedia.
It's for everybody.
Everybody. So, I mean, okay, one of the stanzas, Odin shot a spear, hurled it over the host. That was still the first war in the world. The defense wall was broken of the Æsir's stronghold. The Vanir, indomitable, were trampling the plain. So
Odin shot a spear.
Yeah, and that's where I thought they were at, like, maybe could be at a standstill, and then until, Odin was like, fuck it.
There you go. Hurled it over the host, almost like a challenge, right?
Right.
And there you go. There it is. That was still the first war in the world.
Right. Wasn't it like, I mean, you're bigger with the Roman history. Wasn't like, now we're talking about Rome? Awesome.
Right.
Wasn't like javelin like throwing like part of the games and all that, like the Olympics?
Traditional warfare would actually, honestly, even up today, but the whole idea is you see it today with the likes of say Marines out on patrol or picket lines back in the Civil War, or the avant-garde in Napoleon's day, or even way on back to Roman days, where you would send out some initial troops up there and they have some sort of capability or harrowing weapon. Whether it be a musket, M4 carbine, or a javelin, right?
The
whole idea is you're supposed to harass or otherwise entice the enemy to either force them away or follow you, right? Depending on what your role is. So,
so maybe that's
it might have been Odin's gambit at a bit of a skirmish, right? Skirmishers. Like him throwing a spear wasn't meant to completely decimate the Vanir host upon the plain, right? It was just supposed to
it kind of just
antagonize them, right? Maybe provoke them.
I mean, he is the god of war. Like all those guys are the god of wars. He
throws an insult, they take it too personally. Boom, you got a war.
Right, and that's how I saw it. Well, and if you put him in like a little nice local pub, you might. Yeah.
So who's this character, Gulvig?
Gulvig.
I keep seeing Gulvig crop up.
I keep seeing him too. I've heard of him. Meaning the bright one. Oh, gleaming of honor. Whenever she came in the houses.
She was a Volva, a wise Volva, and she cast spells.
That's like, if you really think so, that's like, I'm really bad with the Norse names. I mean, I know the Æsir, the Vanir, all that.
Oh yeah.
I can't do dwarves. I know the Sons of Ivaldi, but that's about as far as I can go. But the Volva, I don't know jack about them, but I know what they are. But it's basically like Golvig is Odin's personal secretary of foreseeing the future. That's how I see it. I mean, that's how I personally see it, and from what I've researched.
Golvig, clear my 3 o'clock. I'm trying to start a war.
Right.
Third, they're Odin. Too good.
What about Ragnarok? Fuck it. But yeah, I mean, it's really interesting. I mean, it's an all-out war.
I like this tagline of Gulvig, that she was always the favorite of wicked women. So we're kind of dealing with these wicked women, witch-like characters foretelling the future.
In every belief system, like this mysticism is like, the no-go.
Right? It's always carried out by women too. Like,
right.
Come on, let's shake it up. Let's make it a little more interesting.
I mean, you got like, you know, what is that? You got Medusa. I mean, like Medusa, like stuns men and turns them into stone. It's like, dang, dude. And then you got the vulva over here.
There's an idea. Get a Gorgon and a vulva into the same room together.
See who doesn't.
Damn.
You know, like on there's that one show where it's like, what was it? Like they reenacted like historical fights and see who could win versus who.
God, Ultimate Warrior, some bullshit like that.
Yeah, something like that. And that show was such the Gorgon.
The best episode, quick tangent here, everybody, but the best episode of that bullshit show was the Spartan Warrior versus the Ninja. And the whole time I'm sitting there going like, what the fuck? Wouldn't the ninja just wait for the Spartan to fall asleep and then he cuts his throat? And of course, in the show, they have the Spartan warrior winning, and then they have this ancient Japanese dude as this ninjutsu ninja expert. And he's just like, well, of course, in the open, they would have lost, but the ninja just would have waited for the warrior to fall asleep and cut his throat. And I stood up and went, clapped my hands and went, that's right. That's right. That's what he would have done.
Oh, my God. But yeah, they had the Viking versus samurai, I believe, and the samurai won. I mean, I would
give it to that one.
I would talking about the samurai. Right. I mean, well, but the Vikings' weapons were so hardcore. Like they could break any steel. But you know how the samurai train with like all that stuff. It's I give it to that. But how they portrayed it in that stupid reenactment, I was like, that one happened. I mean, I could see it, like, but the Vikings,
it was all highly sensationalist and all.
Right. And they had him like dressed like no shirt, the Viking, and I'm like big abs, and I'm like, what? Armors.
Well, that's silly. Why doesn't he wear his plate mail? or his scale mail, his fish scale, his chain mail, at least.
Right.
Who knows?
But yeah, I mean, I'm going back to I'm trying to get back on track now. So Go Vague, I looked a little bit up on her while I'm right here. Her name is Yggdrasil. That's how you say it in some words and stuff. And lo and behold, based after my fiance, sometimes people call her, it's anglicized to Heidi.
Interesting. Hey, there you go.
I'm engaged to a vulva. That's kind of really creepy now. You got to do the podcast alone. I got to go ahead.
I hear they're a wicked women.
You goddamn seer.
What if what if this whole poetic edda, the prose edda, the Æsir Vanir War is just one giant treatise from Snorri Sturluson to just, don't trust women. Don't do it. Like it was just fighted in the 1290s by some woman and just decided, fine, I'll show her. I'll catalog in great detail the entirety of the Viking culture.
But I actually am going to interrupt you right now because we're going to take a commercial. No, I'm just kidding. But I have to make a special shout out because we got a comment from Julian. I'm going to probably butcher the shit out of your last name, Orions. Hey, I'm a longtime fan from Facebook. I like what you guys do. Keep it going. And I'm like, hey, thanks, Julian, because that's probably the only comment we've gotten so far about this podcast.
Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah, so that's really nice of him. I'm actually going to, I'm having tears.
We appreciate you, Julian. We appreciate you.
Oh, we said it right. So, yeah, no, thanks, man.
Woo!
I had to do a shout out, Not many.
Hey man, at the end of the day, that's what we're all about. We're all about our fans, our community. Because without community, we don't have longship teams. Without longship teams, we can't conquer the horizon. We can't conquer the horizon, and we can't loot and conquer and bring the rest of the world under the fold of the Viking. Right. I mean, trade and learn, and share our culture.
Right. Oh, and I got to do one more. I'm sorry. Probably should have done this in the beginning, but wow, these goddamn tangents. Runar's birthday today, the owner of Viking Empire. He's celebrating his 21st birthday. Wow.
Happy birthday, Runar. 21. Damn, Sonny.
Yeah, man.
Well, if he comes to the States, we can get him a drink. He can get himself a drink.
Yeah, he can come here. ID, please. You can't smoke that here. This is the land of freedom.
Freedom.
Can't do it here.
Land of freedom.
Can't do it here.
The freedom they got in Europe, that's not really freedom. Come on, guys.
Right.
Come on.
What? That's silliness.
Don't get me wrong. I think it's our duty, our sworn duty as podcast hosts to at least piss off one demographic of people per episode.
And so far we
even
got
if that demographic covers an entire swath of a continent.
So far we got Europeans and Infowar bots.
That's right, dude.
I like it. I like it. We're Vikings. We're really Vikings.
If we could put the mainstay enemies on the same side against us, look at that. Look at that. We've got sworn enemies in the same room talking to each other.
I mean, we got the process, we got Goldvig. I'm like engaged to Goldvig, so she can tell us of the forthcoming battles.
That's right, dude.
I mean, we got shit, dude. I'm Odin. I'm definitely Odin right now.
Well, before you pry out your eye, talk to me
first. I mean, I'm gonna
see what we can do.
We have, I'm just gonna have to go to the doctor and be like, "What can you do about this? Looks fine to me. I want wisdom, sir. Give me wisdom."
That's too funny. That's too funny. All right, so back to the war. Back to this God's war. The Æsir, the war of the carnal knowledge and the guttural instinctual gods are fighting the more highbrow, the more abstract-minded gods of fertility and wisdom and future sight, right? And they're fighting, they're battling, the heavens are rumbling and all this and that.
Yeah.
What is, I guess, like, what's the idea here? Do the Æsir want to conquer the Vanir? Do the Vanir want to conquer the Æsir? Do both sides just want to survive?
I think it's again, like, it's, not concrete in this. This is written, like centuries after the whole Viking age, when, after Christendom and all that stuff, and everyone, castrated their fucking own penises and in the name of the Lord and all this stuff. So I'm guessing, they probably don't even know shit. But Snorri wanted his ancestry to be remembered, so that's why he wrote about this. That's why I'm not really good with this. I'm more with the history and everything behind everything up to when the Normans took route. That's why it's really fun to do this podcast, because I'm learning a lot more.
Oh, dude, me too, man.
Right.
Like,
and it's
every time I sit down and think to myself, fuck, how are we going to talk about this? I honestly just sit down, I start reading. It doesn't have to be at a exact point, but I just start reading. And before you know it, I am deep. I am deep into the weeds, and I'm loving it. I am loving Norse mythology. I always used to roll my eyes at this stuff. Really?
I was always like, like when I was younger, obviously I was like, yeah, Zeus. I'm like now more like, these guys have like the craziest backstory in the goddamn world. Thank you, Snorri Sturluson. Right? But because before in Viking Age, it was maybe Balder. They knew about, but it was like Tyr, Loki, and Odin,
almost like like cults of personality that would have existed up to this point. There wouldn't, which did not concern themselves with the act of writing down or keeping any record, any codex or otherwise written on some papyrus, early paper record. Actually, I don't really know if they had paper at this point, if they're still in papyrus or whatnot, or a form of papyrus or early paper. But the interesting thing about this is that the aspect of writing, right, and bookkeeping and record keeping was kind of kept alive in this part of the world by Irish missionaries, more or less, right?
Yeah.
Who themselves got it from the infrastructure and the available wealth from the old Western Roman Empire. So, in some weird twist of ironies, the Vikings owe their paganistic Nordic mythologies and scope of the gods and the sagas, right?
Right.
To very peoples that they helped bring down, subjugate, and raid.
Right.
But as we will get into that a little bit later in later episodes, it wasn't like aha, we got you kind of a thing, right? It was a slow osmosis through time.
Absolutely.
But I just kind of find that just I wouldn't say hilarious. I mean, there's some comedy to it that, like, we know about the Vikings because of practices of Christian monks in their monasteries telling Viking and Danic conquests or conquerors and warriors, going like, no, this is called a book. Don't burn it. Don't eat it. Write it right into it.
Right. You write it. Which
is too funny.
But yeah, I mean, you know, like, and I'm sure like a lot of material has been washed up and everything. So
yeah, and that's the thing too,
like it's crazy.
What else did Snorri Sturluson want to include, or what else did you write down that we don't have today, right? Because someone somewhere decided, doesn't matter.
Like one of my favorite gods he wrote about, like it never, you know, they don't know if he existed, you know, before, like as far as like in literature or text, is Bragi, the god of poetry. You know, he has runes. He was born with runes on his tongue. Like he could sing of the future and everything. He's like my favorite guy. He played like a lute and
hell yeah,
really cool. He is married to the goddess of immortality and Idun. Idun is this.
I bet it makes that till death do us part kind of awkward in conversation.
Right. I mean, he's a fat elf and she's a beautiful goddess, and you know, like he just gets drunk. He has the poetry of meat of poetry. He brews up, like when you brew it, you drink it, and you can sing, fucking say anything you want because he's like the god of scalding anything. And Idun is all the gods are ageless because they keep eating the apples, Idun's apples. And that's why it is, you know. And eventually, like, there's one story. I don't want to say it now because it'll be better in a future episode. But Loki eats a shit ton of those apples.
Ha! I stocked up.
Yeah.
All to his thighs. His thighs are immortal, but the rest of them died.
Yeah, basically.
I love it.
Yeah, it's kind of cool to shoot like how they like in compared to other religions and myths. It's cool that these gods like are closer to humanity than any other god.
So get this. Speaking of Bragi,
yeah,
awesome topic, Bryce. Perfect segue. Going back to the Æsir Vanir War, back to the Prose Edda.
Yeah,
the book of the spare me your ire, people. Chapter 57. Skald Skaparmal.
Yeah, it's basically
in Skald Skaparmal, chapter 57 of the Prose Edda, written by Snorri Sturluson in the 13th century, the god Bragi explains that the origin of poetry actually did occur during the Æsir Vanir War, during a peace conference. During that war, when both sides, probably after countless years whipping spears back and forth at each other and just not being able to get the other upper hand on each other's side, they said, "Hey, peace truce. Let's do a peace truce." And of course, in Viking fashion, how do we do that? Let's all spit into a vat.
Yep. And that's
so when they left, the gods decided that this vat, you won't pour it out. Don't pour this vat out. This is a good vat. It's got all our spit, DNA. It will incriminate us, put us at the scene of the crime. We can't let God CSI, come by and collect it. So let's keep the vat and keep it as a symbol for the peace, for the solidarity. Everyone spit in the vat. It's got the God spit in there, and from those contents was made a man. Kvasir. That's right.
Yggdrasil.
Who later was murdered. Who knows? We'll play the game of Clue later on that point. But then that's kind of what made the meat of poetry, which you mentioned, Bryce.
Yep.
So there you go. So how beautiful is that? You have this cosmic conflict of old gods. Well, I don't really want to say old or new gods, but you've got war gods and wise gods fighting each other for supremacy of the heavens, for consolidation into one pantheon, despite whoever wins each side. And they decide, actually, at the end of it, to come together, and both of them sort out a peace treaty. And from that peace is pretty much spawned the ability for art, for the act of creation, for creative expression.
Right.
That is incredible. You would not think that would be a moral from the Vikings, right? Whipping axes at the backs of monks and monasteries, that their gods formed an act of peace. So through that process, they could have art. Huh.
Isn't that really cool?
That's mind blowing.
Isn't it?
You never hear that.
Oh man, like think of that. Like that was literature. He wrote about that in like 1220s.
Right?
1220s, man. And then you got like these other writers out here like can't even write shit. You got like the author of Aragon. I mean, yeah, I'm calling you a bitch. I'm just kidding.
I mean, like the moral behind the Æsir Vanir, where conflict begets creation through creative artworks and all that. I mean, that would even give Homer goose pimples,
Right. No, like, no, even Homer. Like, oh my God, the Iliad. Like, that was really cool. It was like a great adventure story, but it didn't have like there was backdrops, but blah blah blah, fill in the blanks. But this dude like wrote a whole goddamn like different world, and he's one of my favorite literature writers.
I mean that's cool. That's cool.
Right.
I mean, when I'm bored out there in the world and I just have to put like a little smile on my face that humanity can still or like has and can still come up with some cool stuff, you know?
Yeah.
I was popping good old Snorri Sturluson and just, you know, revisit the story of the Æsir Vanir War and realize that after all the strife and turmoil, even of so petty a conflict of like maybe Odin just wanting to control all the vulva goddesses and being able to see the future and control the universe. At the end of it, solidarity was reached, and boom, we have poetry, we have art, we have the act of abstract creation.
Yeah. It's crazy. I mean, like, man, there's so many gods and goddesses. Thank you, Snorri.
Too good.
Yeah. And I mean, going back to the Vanir and Æsir War, I mean, like, you know, like it's, you know, and it comes from gnomic texts where it's really hard, like, you know, it's gnomic, like you can't, I mean, it can go anyways. Like it's how you translate it yourself, like any other gnomic text, like the Bible, you know, Islam, whatever.
Yeah.
Or, you know, whatever. But sorry, it started playing back in my YouTube started playing.
Oh yeah, when that damn thing spits back on you, it's like, whoa! I didn't ask for this contact.
Yeah, I'm like, what am I saying? Why am I saying it back to me? Like, shut up, goddamn leg. No, but I mean, like, you know, with any of that, it's I completely fucking forgot what I was about to say. Goddamn YouTube. I mean, I love YouTube. Thank you, Google.
Thanks, Google. Thanks, YouTube. Right. But of course, as every mythology in itself is a creative story to, like, you know, sell us some sort of moral at the end of it. Even the most creative of stories are based somewhat on reality, on, you know, like an actual it occurred in the human reality scape, right?
Right.
And I'm kind of reading here through our notes that while the Vanir are considered fertility gods and the Æsir, you know, more so war bands and war gods, it's I guess being proposed and thought upon by modern scholars as a kind of like a treatise or just like a short retelling of invasion of local fertility cults,
right,
somewhere in, you know, the regions inhabited by Germanic peoples, by more aggressive warlike cult, right? So perhaps people who were beyond the frontiers of even the Vikings in the deep forests of the north,
right,
which would make kind of sense. And as warlike peoples come in, they can, all throughout time in history, they can almost never truly eradicate who they're coming into. More often than not, if they don't run out, they breed out, right? So they will just kind of intermingle. And so there, I could see the instance of these two god sides, these two tribes coming together and making a peace and saying, "Hey, let's work together."
Right.
I might hate you, you might hate me, but damn, do we make a good team?
Right. Well, you know, in like another thing, it's kind of like you got the gods of the underworld versus the gods of the top. It, you know, in Greek mythology, where in Christianity, it's, or, you know, Abrahamic religion, it's gods or God on the bottom, God on the top. You know, and these guys are always that duality. Just on the top. Yeah, and but like it's not, you know, and all compared to like all that, it's good versus evil. Where these guys are like, it's more like, how the fuck are they, like, just combine, you know, kind of the balance, more closer to Taoism and Buddhism in a sense, you know, if they believed in a higher power.
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, that's just kind of coming down to the integral core point of we are humans and we can observe, and from our observances, we can make rational deductions, and from that, we can, you know, our imaginations run wild. I mean, it doesn't take a fucking genius with two sets of a set of eyes. I don't know.
Yeah.
One guy with two sets of eyes. But it doesn't take a genius to look up and say, "Ooh, glowing bright orb in this part of time, dark silver orb at that part of time. Two orbs, relatively equal time. Two halves. Hot, cold, hot, cold. What else is hot? Fire is hot. Water's cold. Duality, duality, duality. Good, evil, up, down, left, right." So that's, it's just kind of like from these, you know, just natural observances of nature that we kind of see echoed in all those different cultures, right? Because come on, every fucking creation story has a battle at some point, right? Between heroes and the villains and either one side wins or they both get destroyed, and that's how the world's made, or they come together and work. Thankfully, for our sake, for the Asgardians' sake, the Aesir and the Vanir decided to work together. And hey, we got poetry out of it. That's a sweet deal.
Right. It's really cool. Like, I mean, they battled over some bullshit, I'm sure. Like, if I've read more into it, I mean, you know, or maybe it's, you know, but it shows the duality of it, like you were saying. And I'm still trying to wrap my head around it, why it's not like this big conflict. Like,
it's,
I mean, a couple people
it's
died,
a trip.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a trip.
Like,
but actually, that'd be I think a hell of a cool episode to pull off one of these days if we did what we would call like a parallels episode, where we looked at some of the like Viking sagas and went hunting around through other epochs and tribes of humanity and tried to find, well, who the hell else kind of has a story like this, right? See where those paths cross. And here's the kicker. With parallels, excuse me, could we also like pinpoint time and perhaps even modes of transportation and trade lines to see if these stories kind of like have a similar time bearing, right?
Right.
Because if they do, I'm gonna go out there and say it. You know, then they were just swapping stories at the local bazaar. You know, two traders were just trying to one up each other. well, my guy can do that. Well, my guy could do this too. And on the way back home, both of them were just like, actually, that'd be pretty cool if our gods could do that. So they brought it home, paid off the priests, and were like, dids. Let's make our gods do this, guy.
Yeah. Come on, bro.
That's interesting, though. So last episode, we kind of like shed some light on the creation of the world, which kind of led to the two formings of the major groupings of gods, the Æsir, the war gods, and the Vanir, the wisdom and fertility gods. And here we shed some light as to the fighting between them, because they were two unconsolidated halves. Of course, they were going to come to blows. That's just how it is. And they, you know, through solidarity, spat into a giant vat, didn't spill it over.
Yeah.
Boom. That's the meat of poetry. Boom. Yeah. That's art. Boom. We got a single pantheon. Boom. Peace in the heavens, more or less.
I like this mic. I was making the sounds.
Excellent.
We don't really have sounds to put like, but I was making the sounds.
Sounds are good to make, dude. Pew, 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 pew. Which is interesting too. And if our studies and our recounting kind of like clash with what, and if any of our listeners out there who have far more time and experience in this, hey, let us know. We would love to give shout outs and like, you know, try and correct some of our ramblings. Yeah. But also know that there are like so many fucking like ununified threads of this stuff going this way and that. I mean, I'm even reading right here that like many scholars now consider Golvi, Kjord, and Freya, all of them the same. They're just different reflections or references to everybody. So there you go. Even good old Snorri Sturluson here can't even keep his fucking facts straight.
No. He's probably like, oh fuck, how do I write this one to give it a little bit more originality?
I'm just making it up as I go along.
Right. And no, I mean, it's really fucking cool though, like that he was just like, okay, Christians, cool, man. I mean, like, okay, so when Christianity came in, like, you know, again, like people still, there's still the situation where some believed in paganism still, and they loved their gods, right? But they were casted out as heathens and all this shit. Some even were like, fuck it, okay, but I'm not gonna just believe in one fucking god because that's crazy. So
I gotta cover my bases. Come on.
Right. I'm gonna add Jesus Christ to the list of pantheons. You know, like, okay, maybe he was at Valhalla, maybe he was in the vats of spit. You know, maybe he did come out, you know, all this shit.
Maybe he was there and he was bumping elbows with Baldur. You don't know.
And you got to think about these guys. These guys are Scandinavian, so they're stubborn as fuck already. So, you know, like, you know, and I mean, I'll give you my word, I'm stubborn as fuck. So, yeah, of course, if Christians like believe in Christian or believe in Christ, I'd be like, sure, man, but what's in it for me?
Dude,
I'm gonna add it in to my.
You want to talk about stubbornness to this day? So I hear on good authority, your authority, that there's people still practicing these beliefs as a fully fledged, you know, a live religion. So there you go. Falls in your court, Christianity.
God damn. That's right. Get a little. You've been reformed too much.
Right? It is fascinating shit. And just because we like this episode was the main focus of our attention on the Æsir Vanir War doesn't mean we will never speak about it again, right? It'll come, it'll go as needed.
Right. And I mean, we needed to touch up on it since from last episode. What we're going to be doing is kind of like an episodic thing of all this. Eventually, we're going to get into the history things where we're a little bit more actually knowledgeable about. The mythology part, I'm knowledgeable, but not like, you know, some scholarly, scaldic
motherfucker. Kind of pissing uphill with these kind of topics in a manner of speaking. So we're not the most knowledgeable.
Yeah, but, and we'll get some guests down here and hear about them and what they have to say and shit.
But that's, you know, fun. That's the journey, dude. That's the journey.
Journey, bro. Yeah, whoa. Take some LSD.
But yeah, it'll be pretty fun. Like a brief little preview of our lineup to come. So we started off with creation. Here's the Æsir Vanir War, right? We want to then do 3 mainstay episodes on, you know, the big 3 of Norse mythology and the pantheon: Odin, Loki, Thor. And then we want to do an episode after that where we kind of spend time on the lesser known myths, some of the third tier players, people and items and events you haven't really heard of before in the Norse myths. And then after we kind of wrap up that bad boy, we're going to close the mythology segment, at least for now, on Ragnarok, because why wouldn't you end at the end? And then from there, we might do a big old recap, maybe kick off one of our war party episodes, right?
War party.
And then we'll go into the history. And then that's when this podcast really boom explodes out, you know.
Yeah, I'm man, like this episode was one of my favorites to do, actually. Probably because of the new mics. It was really fascinating. I mean, yeah, we're getting this down.
It's so good.
Yeah. Whoa. And we have one guy that likes it, Julian.
That's right, Julian. With you in our corner, we can't fail.
Right. Another shout out to Julian Orion.
That's right, dude.
Was that right?
You can be the Viking Empire's vulva.
Yeah, no, he's the vulva. Like the male version.
The male version of the vulva, of course.
I mean
careful how you say that word.
Vulva. Whatever you want to identify as, you're the vulva. Whatever. I mean,
I love it. We have fun. We have fun, dude. We're gonna have so much fun on this. I hope you guys listening are having fun. And
yeah,
golly,
I have nothing else to talk about.
I think that's it. You know, dude. I think that's it for episode 2. Hit us with that wonderful sponsorship again for the skateboards.
Oh yeah, Children of Freya, guys, check them out. There's a Facebook page, Children of Freya. All your skateboard needs. Even comes with sweet like wheels, and I'm a big skater. You know, I'm not too hardcore about like doing crazy tricks, and I can't do a half pipe or shit. I actually dislocated my arm doing that. But
you looked good doing it.
Oh, I look great. I mean, but I would probably look better if I was skating a Children of Freya board.
Exactly. And actually, I know right after we're done recording here, I'm gonna check them out. I'm interested.
Do it. It's really cool. I mean, even like what I said, like I even like build shelves like out of skateboards, like old skateboard decks.
So dude.
Like it's cool. So, but yeah,
we'll definitely get that website or various online social material for Children of Freya skateboards in the description of the video and all that.
Yeah.
As always, stay safe out there when you're surviving the Viking Empire lands.
Be careful of Christians.
Careful of Christians, especially those Franks. Watch out for Charlemagne.
Right.
But as always, warriors, get ready and head for the ships.
Head for the ships.
Head for the ships.
Too much gain.
All right, catch you guys next time. It was a hoot.